Lonely Zebra back with more Canuck Bucks. Like you, I question everything. Do you mind if I ask you where you find your faith in Jesus? I ask with an open heart, not to debate, save Candace and go Max. Where do I find my faith in Jesus? So I was not always a believer. In fact, I grew up very much a not believer. I was a militant atheist, and met with a guy in college named I can see it's Jim Brinkerhoff. Twice a week, couple hours each time for 8 weeks. So that would have been 32 hours over 8 weeks. And we started by just talking, and then he finally cracked open a Bible, and then we started reading, and he made what I thought was the first legitimate case that I'd ever seen that God was real. The Bible made sense that Jesus had some role in salvation, was sent by God and had some role in salvation. And I wanted to know more. I was intrigued. He was a former Catholic turned Church of Christ preacher. And so I started attending the Church of Christ. I was there for several years. And then the more I read about theology, the less I got excited about the Church of Christ. I just had such a hard time with it. There was some inconsistencies. There were some things that just weren't systematic enough, didn't make enough sense to me. And so I first was intrigued by the Catholic Church when I worked with somebody who was Catholic who was talking to me about sola scriptura and the Catholic position on sola scriptura. The only thing I'd ever heard is it's Bible alone and that's it. So I started looking into that issue, and that led me down the path towards Catholicism. It took several years, probably another 6 or 7, 8 years before I became Catholic. But that led me down that path. The faith in Jesus itself, I don't believe the world randomly got here. I don't believe matter exists outside of I don't believe matter exists without something causing it to exist. I don't believe that cause is natural functions or forces. Those have to come from somewhere as well. In other words, nature doesn't just exist. It has to be willed into existence by a being greater than nature itself. The complexity is such that it just couldn't happen by chance. That's a totally irrational logical position. So you're left with the idea that there's some greater force, greater than humanity, greater than the universe itself. And then the question is there a relationship between that greater force and humanity itself? Is there some sort of personal interaction between them? And through study, I became convinced there was, that Jesus came to save humanity. Now, I don't. You had an interesting question. Where do you find your faith in Jesus? I'm not a fan of this personal relationship talk with Jesus. I'm not knocking those who say that stuff. But I don't see that in the Bible anywhere. I don't see where it says you have to have a personal relationship with Jesus. I hear preachers say that. I hear priests say that, frankly. That you have to have a personal. It's about the personal relationship. It's not about this. I don't see that. What I see is Jesus saying, do what I say, and you'll live a long, happy eternity with me. Because demonic forces turned against God, and God's prized creation is humanity. So therefore, those same demonic forces turned against humanity, and Jesus came to free you from those demonic forces. That's my faith in Jesus in a nutshell. God created the angelic class. Some of those angels turned on God, becoming demons. God created humans as his prize, the pinnacle of creation. Because it was God's pinnacle of creation, those demons that hate God hate humans and seek to destroy us. And you can see the evidence of the destruction everywhere you look: drugs, pornography, broken homes, everything you can possibly imagine. violence, murder. You see the evidence of this demonic influence over humanity everywhere you look. And then Jesus came and said, I can free you from that demonic influence. I can set your soul free from that. And being free from that demonic influence, you will then have the opportunity to follow me. You'll have the opportunity to do the right thing. And I believe that's part of it, that you need to do the right thing. And that's my faith. That's my faith in a nutshell. That's where I find my faith in Jesus. If I don't have faith in Jesus, I believe that because I still believe in God, I don't believe matter came from nothing. That's ludicrous. And if I still believe in God and I look around and I see the death and destruction, horrific, I know the demons are real. Well, if I believe in God and I believe the demons are real, then I look out and say, there's got to be a way out of it. We can't all just give ourselves over to this horrific, demonic existence. And then you have Jesus saying, I'm the guy who will free you. I will set you free. I think that's what he means by set you free. It's not a situation where you can remain neutral. You are on a team. You're on a team. You either are on his team or you're not on his team. But if you're not on his team, you're on the other team. And I do believe sometimes when you're on the other team, life can be pretty gravy. Because they're trying to convince you that being on the other team isn't so bad. But you see the evidence of what happens on the other team. The demonic team, the evil team. You see evidence of what happens over there. And so that's my faith in Jesus. That's where I find my faith in Jesus. I found a way out of demonic influence in my life and in the world. And I encourage everybody to seek that. Again, I'm not going to talk to you like a lot of Protestants and even some Catholic priests talk about, where, you know, you hear, oh, Jesus is your buddy. He's like Big Bird. You know, I don't believe in Big Bird Jesus. I don't believe in Big Bird Jesus. I believe in a Jesus who stared death in the face and crawled up on the cross anyway. I believe in a Jesus who understood suffering like you and I can't imagine. You think we have anxiety? You remember the comment a few comments ago where someone said, how do I handle the red pill? You think that's a problem? You think it's a problem that Candace thinks or believes or knows that someone betrayed Charlie Kirk and may have betrayed her and her life may be in jeopardy? That's like peanuts compared to what Jesus faced. He had to take on not only the Romans and the Jewish leaders of the day, he had to take on demonic angels, stare them directly in the eye, look them down and say, I'll let you have me. I'll let you have me. But you're not going to win. You're not going to win. I do. I believe that's my belief. That's my faith in Jesus. It's like if you have a house and you leave the door unlocked to your house, and then you go away for a 6-month vacation to Europe, right? And you come back home, will there be squatters in your house? Maybe. You left the house unlocked. Now, you might have gotten lucky and the squatters didn't come in. That's sin. That's the nature of sin. That's not doing what Jesus asked us to do. That's not doing what God wants us to do. That's sin. You leave the door open. If you leave the door open, guess who might move in? Squatters. In the spiritual world, the squatters are called demons. So you sin, you leave your door unlocked, you abandon your home. You had a lock. You had the ability to keep you and Jesus alone in the house, but you sinned, so you left the house unlocked, and you come back and it might have squatters. That's your soul. That's Christianity in a nutshell. And in order to evict the squatters, there's only one person who can evict the squatters. You got to go back on Team Jesus. You got to say, listen, I'm sorry I left the house abandoned for 6 months. I won't do it again. And he'll say, okay, I'll kick him out. I'll come back home. I'll come back home and we'll lock the door and it'll just be the two of us again. Please don't leave the door unlocked again. That's the Jesus story in a nutshell. That's the story Charlie Kirk was trying to tell people. I'll pray for you, Lonely Zebra. I want you to find faith in Jesus. I want you to, it doesn't have to be like, listen, it doesn't have to be the big bird Jesus. It can be a demon fighting Jesus, which is what it was. And you don't have to sit around and feel all warm and gushy. You just have to know intellectually or just faith that I believe that this is the way the world works. I believe this is the way the universe works, and I want to be on the right team. That's your faith in Jesus. That's your faith in Jesus. From there, you begin to ask the question, what does he want me to do? And that's how you respond to Jesus. Thank you for your question.